be considered valuable. They're left to fend for themselves and would almost certainly die. But in the late 1980s, a Kenyan-British woman became the first person to hand-rear orphaned baby African elephants. She's Dame Daphne Sheldrick, and she's been speaking to Alex Last.
We know them almost as well as our own children, and we love them equally, because an elephant can read your heart, and you're not going to be successful unless you love that animal.
Dame Daphne Sheldrick was born in Kenya in 1934 when the country was a British colony. She grew up on the farm and from an early age had an affinity with the wild animals that lived in the bush. She later fell in love and married David Sheldrick, a pioneering game warden and conservationist who is in charge of the Tsavo National Park, which covered a huge swathe of eastern Kenya.
Poaching was a problem, huge problem. It still is a huge problem. As long as there's a demand for ivory in the Far East and there's a lot of poverty in Africa, there are going to be people that will kill an elephant for its tusks. When David first came to Tsavo in 1948, there was a lot of poisoned arrow poaching, but the Somali poaching sort of started in the 80s really. That took a huge toll of elephants, they're coming in with AK-47s and just spraying a whole herd of elephants, and many of them dying of gunshot wounds. There was one occasion on the Boy River when 60 elephants died in a hail of gunfire. There were dead elephants everywhere. There were little orphaned elephants running around everywhere, unaccompanied. And it was a terrible time, it really was.
In the 1970s and 80s, African elephants started to be killed by poachers on a vast scale. In Tsavo, the population dropped from 45,000 to 6,000. The number of orphaned elephants soared. The young ones had very little chance of survival in the wild.
When I lived in Tsavo with David, we had orphaned elephants, aged 3 and 4, that mothers had died during the drought or been shot by poachers, but not the infants. We never managed to keep an infant elephant alive. David died in 1977, and that's when we set up the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust to try and carry on his work. First little orphaned elephant that came in, we didn't even have a stable. It slept in my daughter Jill's bedroom, and it sort of grew from that. The big leap was to raise the infant elephants. Nobody had managed to do that. They're exceedingly fragile. Age progression is the same as a human. So 2 years old, they're like a 2-year-old human child. But they cannot tolerate the fat in cow's milk. That kills them straight away. They get diarrhea and you can lose them overnight. They dehydrate very quickly. The nearest thing to the fat in elephant's milk is actually coconut. So then I went around trying to find baby formulas that had mainly vegetable fat. And that worked, with difficulty. It wasn't ideal. It's not mother's milk. We haven't got it absolutely right yet, after 50 years of trial and error and learning with every single one that comes in, we still have a lot of failures as well. You never know until an elephant's about 5 years old if it's going to live or not.
The David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust set up a nursery for orphan baby elephants at Daphne's home inside the Nairobi National Park. They set up reintegration units too, back in Tsavo, where if the orphans were old enough and strong enough, they start the long process of reintroducing the orphans to the wild.
Over the years we've managed to raise over 200 through the nursery, but we've probably lost almost that number as well. When they lose their elephant family, there's a lot of stress involved, grief. They mourn and grieve the elephant family just as we do, and during that time you can have a lot of problems and you have to calm them down. You can only do that with a lot of tender loving care and with the input of the other elephants.
The keepers are chosen for their affinity with the elephants. They spend day and even night with the littlest ones, often sleeping in the stables, becoming in effect surrogate mothers. Benjamin Kialo, a long-time keeper, is the project manager of the Atumba reintegration unit in Tsavo.
They're all my kids. They were their own different personalities, but I love them all. Yeah, the best part of it is they never forget those guys who took care of them when they were young until they joined the wild. So they do come back from time to time.
Even more remarkably, they've noticed that wild ex-orphans sometimes bring injured wild elephants back to the centres in Savo for treatment.
Whenever they come across wild elephants with a problem, they always try to talk to them so that they can be stockade. Because they know the keepers there, if they see the injured elephant or the sick elephant, they will act in a way by probably calling a vet to come and check on that sick wild elephant.
If the animal loves you enough, it will come back to you. Just the other day, one of our ex-orphans, raised in the nursery, is now living wild, visited their camp on the Boy River. So they called our keepers, and amongst the keepers that went to try and identify this elephant was a man that had raised him in the nursery, that had been with him in the nursery. And as soon as Ndume heard Meshach's voice, and this is after 28 years, he came straight up to him and gave him a wonderful elephant greeting, rumbling and put his trunk round his neck, and he knew that voice. There's a saying, the elephants never forget. It's very true, they don't.
The elephant Stephanie saves is still a fraction of the numbers being killed by poachers across Africa each year for a resurgent Asian ivory trade. But amid all the killings, Savo at least, there is a small chance for a second life.
When they have their wild-born babies, they bring them back to share with the keepers that raised them themselves through childhood. One particular one here then, when she came to us the day she was born, we had a huge dog to raise her, two lemon pups, and she's now given birth to her first baby. And brought it back to share with the keepers here. Amongst our ex-orphans that are now grown, we've had 20 wild-born babies, and others on the way. The best gift you can give a wild animal is to set it free.
Dame Daphne Sheldrake was talking to Alex last. If you want to cheer yourself up, I recommend you visit our website, because we've got a filmed version of Dame Daphne's story. I think very cute footage of Dame Daphne. It's our BBC Witness Films. Now, just before we go this week, you might have heard our 100 Women series, currently running on BBC World Service. And our Witness Programmes team is involved in that, and two of them are with me now, Fahana Hyder and Rebecca Kesby, with an appeal.
Yes, we have, Max. We're appealing for people to get in touch with the programme to tell us about women that they think have been overlooked by history. This could be a relative, it could be somebody from your community, and it could be about a story that you think everyone should know about, but for some reason it hasn't been picked up by the history books.
Yes, exactly. Maybe they've witnessed a major event, or it doesn't have to be something so dramatic. Maybe they've lived through social change. We'd love to hear about women that you know who've achieved something astonishing or witnessed something astonishing.
And how should listeners get in touch?
Well, Max, there are a number of ways that listeners can get in touch with us. They can go to Facebook and search for BBC World Service or Witness.
Yeah, or you could just send us an email if you've got lots of details to explain to us, and to do that, just write to witness@bbc.co.uk.
Rebecca, Fahana, many thanks. That's it for the History Hour this week. We'll have more next week. This is Max Pearson. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Who will you vote the BBC African Footballer of the Year 2016? It's the fans' choice. Goal machine Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, technical maestro Riyad Mahrez, lightning quick Sadio Mane, midfield master Andre Ayew, or football strongman Yaya Toure. Vote online at bbc.com/Africa.
سمو ولي العهد يستقبل رئيس جمهورية الشيشان ويبحث معه عددا من الموضوعات ذات الاهتمام المشترك. مصدر مسؤول بوزارة الخارجية يدين الاعتداء الإرهابي الذي استهدف إحدى نقاط التأمين شمال سيناء المصرية. الدفاع الجوي السعودي يعترض صاروخا باليستيا أطلق من الأراضي اليمنية باتجاه خميس مشيط. وزارة الداخلية تؤكد القبض على هايل بن زعل بن محمد العطوي أحد متبني فكر داعش الإرهابي والمتهم بقتل أحد جنود القوات المسلحة. المراكز الانتخابية في الكويت تغلق أبوابها بعد الاقتراع لاختيار أعضاء مجلس الأمة الكويتي